Reason versus Ableton Live. Live has features that Reason doesn't, and vice versa. Let's talk about it after you follow me on Instagram so you can listen to my music. I'll wait. Just playing. What up, everybody? It's your girl July from Kickback Couture, and I present to you DAW Wars. I'll be touching on 4 primary concepts during the duration of this comparison. User interface is how the DAW looks and feels. Functionality, how the DAW works. Sonicality, how the DAW sounds. And purpose, where we'll discuss who can comfortably use the software and in what situations. Let's start with the user interface. They are both incredibly sleek. So sleek, they remind me of my year 2000 compact computer. Reason is centric around analog-looking devices, so it makes sense that the GUI is reminiscent of the 90s. Ableton Live was developed around the same time, sharing the same excuse. Reason's UI has 4 main sections: mixer, rack, sequencer, and browser. Ableton Live's UI is divided into the same sections, so let's start with the mixers in each application. Reason's mixer is an emulation of an SSL console. There are 6 collapsible sections: inputs, dynamics, EQ, inserts, effect sends, and faders. You could essentially mix a song here without needing to look at any other screen. No need to open up different devices unless the Reason mixer can't accomplish your task. When you're ready to master, you can use the master compressor located in the mixer area. As for any other processing, you'll have to use the master section in the rack. This is a big difference in comparison to Ableton Live, and here's why. Ableton Live's mixer is similar in function, but different in presentation. Rather than having 6 collapsible sections dedicated to mixing, there are 3 mixer modules front and center: ins and outs for audio and MIDI, send effects knobs, and faders. Not as flashy, but you can toggle on individual track delay for latency, crossfading for DJs, and performance impact for monitoring which specific track is spiking your CPU. The sender would turn tracks in Live are off to the right, separated from the fader area. This is also where you'll find your master channel. Unlike Reason's rack, if you want to mix your track, you'll have to do most of it in the rack. As mentioned before, Reason's rack has a nostalgic vibe. Reason's rack is divided into racks. You can easily create more racks and hide those racks within more racks. To hide and combine those racks, you can use a combinator. It's almost an entirely designable interface. You can synthesize patches, drop in your own buttons, knobs, faders, mod wheels, and even change the backdrop. Reason's backside hides several cable connections: control voltage, gate and note, audio ins and outs, etc. The connections do not include MIDI inputs and outputs. Not having MIDI inputs and outputs means that if you're using a device like Scalar or Captain Chords, you won't be able to send the MIDI to another instrument. Another thing to note is that at the moment, the Reason rack only supports 64-bit VST2 plugins and Reason's native rack extension devices. Though you can open your VST2 plugins, some features may not function as promised. You'll have to check with the developers to ensure it works smoothly. Live's rack also has a modular vibe with all of the devices located in the racks. The exception to this is actually the same in Reason, whereas external plugins open separately from the rack and float wherever you put them. Ableton Live's rack is a bit more modern in terms of device design. Rather than having the devices mimic a realistic 3D model system, these are simply 2-dimensional. This rack is also made of racks and allows you to collapse them for extra space. We can combine these racks with something called a rack. You can have instrument racks, effect racks, MIDI effect racks, drum racks, and combinations of the 4. You can group multiple devices, enabling you to map up to 8 parameters to 8 available knobs. In a more advanced setting, you can use Live's programming tool called Max for Live to create your own devices with buttons, knobs, and whatever else your heart desires. Max for Live takes things further than just giving you a set of macros. You can build instruments, effects, and MIDI effects from scratch. Your custom devices do not have to include the devices that currently exist in Live. You are coding whatever you please into existence. Live does not have a cabling system. If you want control voltage modulations, there are designated control voltage devices. If you want to sidechain a kick and bass, You can utilize the drop-down menu on a compressor and choose your input signal. If you need to send MIDI from Easy Drummer to the sequencer to make changes and use it for your preferred VST, you can do that in Live. Also, when using a drum device native to Live, each drum is automatically mapped to its own output. In Reason, you must create the individual tracks and manually route cable by cable. Ableton Live supports audio units, VST2 and VST3, as well as its native format. If you like what you see in the Reason rack, you can use that in Ableton Live. A significant difference is that Reason has a pop-out audio editor for all sampling devices. Live's editing can be done in the sequencer or with an application of your choosing. The editing app does not have to be affiliated with Ableton. The sequencers on these DAWs have perhaps the most differences in functionality, starting with the piano roll. Reason has 8 tools: mouse, pen, eraser, razor, mute, zoom, hand, and speaker. On the flip side, Live's piano roll has 2 tools, a mouse and a pen. To be fair, you can use 0 to mute notes and double click with the mouse tool to delete. A speaker button in the corner will also enable playback when placing notes in the grid. You'll also find a scale highlighting feature that allows you to color note lanes for the key and scale of your project. Reason does not support note-specific MIDI functions like per note expression or general MPE features. Ableton Live does support MPE with separate pitch, slide, and expression areas in the clips. Audio files in Reason have their own set of possibilities. You can chop and retime audio by dragging transients in slice mode, comp vocal takes in comp mode, and pitch a performance like Melodon in pitch mode. Reason can also transcribe a polyphonic audio signal to MIDI. Polyphonic means one note played at a time, no harmonies. You can also chop and retime audio with Live's editor, and Live also has comping. What's missing from the list is a pitch correction mode. You can manually chop and transpose sections, but you won't get the same analysis level as in Reason. One last thing about the sequencer in Live is the ability to convert complex audio like drum loops, chords, or melodies into MIDI. If you want to know what keys are being played in a sample you got from Splice, this simple conversion function will keep you from noodling around trying to transcribe it yourself. There are 2 ways to create ideas in Reason: Song View and Block View. Song View is your typical arrangement canvas, allowing you to lay out a song. The Block View is designed for creating shorter multi-track sections that can repeat anywhere in the song arrangement. Anything you place over a block in Song View will overwrite what's there. For example, you can overwrite with transition effects or melodic and chord variations that break up your song. Blocks are not required to produce and can be deactivated. There are 2 ways to create ideas in Live: Session View and Arrangement View. The Arrangement View is just like the Song View in Reason. The Session View allows for a live performance, DJ experience, or an in-time theatrical stage-related occurrence by moving the elements from your song from a fixed timeline. In Session View, you can trigger different alterations of clips at any moment and remain in time with your production. You may have experienced the bootleg version of this. It's like when your homie plays you a beat he made and he starts muting and soloing tracks to differentiate between the intro verse and chorus. Now that we've covered a considerable chunk of user interface and functionality differences, let's talk about sonicality. If you are a sound designer, I think you'll be ecstatic no matter which direction you go. There are 31 instruments, 32 effects, 10 MIDI effects, and 10 utilities included with the Reason Plus subscription. There are 17 instruments, 60 audio effects, and 16 MIDI effects included with an Ableton Live 11 Suite perpetual license. The utilities in Reason equate to LFOs, CV modulators, and other mixing devices that are considered effects in Ableton Live. The samplers are also incredible in both DAWs and can accomplish the same tasks. The synthesizers vary, so I would check each DAW to see which you prefer. You'll find these synthesis types in Ableton Live: subtractive, additive, wavetable, frequency modulation, and physical modeling. Physical modeling is when the sound of a synth is generated from the coding rather than from a sample bank. The synthesis types you'll find in Reason are mostly sample-based. In addition, you'll scope out subtractive, additive, granular, wavetable, and frequency modulation synthesis. There is one physical modeling-based synth in Reason called Friction, which is for string instruments like guitars and violins. On the other hand, Ableton Live has a handful of physical modeling synths for pianos, mallets, general vintage style synths, and more. Ableton Live Suite has a library that is more than 70 gigabytes. Reason Plus has a library around 30 gigabytes. Reason Plus is $19.99 per month and is only available as a subscription, while a lower tier version with fewer features is available as a perpetual license for $449. Ableton Live Suite is $749, and with the companion controller, it's about $1,400. On that note, there are some things I didn't discuss. One of Reason's subsequent updates should include VST3 support, but check out the video in the cards for more on Reason's roadmap. If I were to choose between these DAWs, I wouldn't. It comes down to which software has the right tools for the job. Reason's piano roll kinda blows Live's out of the water, and Reason arguably has better presets, even though Live has a bigger library. On the other hand, if I started beating Reason, I'm often looking to use a plugin that isn't even compatible. If Reason had VST3 support and MIDI routing abilities, I might have never tried another DAW. But if you're an established performer looking to improve your stage show, Live is the way to go since it gives you the ability to launch clips on demand. Composers may select Live as Reason doesn't support video. Sound designers might decide they want both. You can utilize the Reason Rack as a plugin inside Live if you want to. I know some people who prefer Reason for the pitch mode, which is handy for tuning vocals. Let me know why you like your DAW over others in the comments. If you're interested in exploring DAWs like I am, subscribe to follow my journey. FL Studio is next on my production bucket list. To hear more about Reason's developments and my experience with Live, click the corresponding videos on the end screen. It's all culture, Kickback, and Cook Up.